Welcome back to week 9 of the DSR channel, and we are covering the UA that they put out today, the second one this month. It's on 5 of my favorite subclasses that I loved, and they so far have improved all of them and screwed up none of them. So we're on a roll. Too bad we can't say that about the Banneret, huh, guys? Too soon. Ah. Um, so this one is the Monk subclass, Warrior of Intoxication, and I almost gave this one a yellow thumb sideways for the name change alone. The best part of the subclass before was the name Drunken Master. That alone made me want to play it, guys, and you effed it up. So this is the only fail. This name sucks, okay? And I don't care if you got to change the grammar. Just call it the Drunken Master Monk subclass. Like, get rid of Warrior of if you have to, okay? Even Warrior of Brew Mastery would be better than Intoxication. I don't know. I bet you know what? Anybody who watches this, let's brainstorm a few ideas for WotC. All of them would be better than Warrior of Intoxication, okay? All right, we got to move on. Drink mystic brews to overwhelm and confound foes. Warriors of Intoxication move with the jerky, unpredictable movements typical of someone who is intoxicated. These monks sway on unsteady feet to appear incompetent and then prove themselves frustrating to engage. Their apparently erratic stumbles conceal a carefully executed dance of blocks, parries, advances, attacks, and retreats. Warriors of Intoxication often enjoy playing the fool to bring gladness to the downtrodden or to teach humility to the arrogant. But these monks are maddening, masterful foes in battle. That's some pretty sweet uh, flavor text. So nice. All right. We're going to skip the design notes because you can't really trust it anyway. Level 3, bonus proficiency. This is identical, except they added a clause after the skill proficiency for performance that you could choose something else if you already have performance. And interestingly, they did not add that to the brewer supplies tools, and they should. So if you already have brewer supplies tools proficiency, you should get something else. So let's give them that on their feedback, okay? Drunken technique. This one is, I believe, functionally identical, even though they changed some of the words. And what they changed was instead of you gaining the benefit of the disengage action, your movement just now no longer provokes opportunity attacks. I can't think of any way that that's different. But if you can think of a way, let me know in the comments. I think that's functionally the same. Tipsy sway, completely identical. And I'm not mad at it. Like this one's not bad, okay? Because you've got your deflect attack that occurs when they hit you, which is a really like super strong reaction now. But if they miss you, you can use this to do something instead. So now here's the interesting thing. Your level 3 feature makes you a super like an S tier skirmisher, right? Because you can go in, use all of your action economy, all of your focus points now to deal damage and be offensive, and you still get the benefit of just walking away. Nobody can attack you as you walk away, and you get the extra 10 feet of movement. So you have a huge amount of movement speed. You can run in from around the corner, run in, hit a bunch of guys, and run out. So you're like an S tier skirmisher now just by that. The problem with redirect attack on this is your goal as a skirmisher is to never be targeted. So you're trying to end your turn behind a corner. So this kind of works against like that. Being a skirmisher works against this ability. Sure, you can't always get around a corner. Sure, you can't always avoid being targeted. But with that movement speed and that level 3 ability, you will rarely be targeted, which means you'll rarely use this, which means this is. And then the first half of this level 6 feature is, yes, it's going to matter. Yes. I mean, I don't know. I knock down PCs all the time. So this is going to be nice, but not that big of a deal. And redirect attack is rarely going to trigger because, like I said, you're trying not to be targeted. So they didn't change it, but it's weaker, or it's weak simply because you're such a good skirmisher. But if they don't change it, that's okay because they added a new feature, Mystic Brew, which is friggin' awesome. Friggin' awesome. And the flavor, right? Like, how can you be this brewmaster, drunken master without creating something to drink and drinking it? Like, now you've got this reason to be like walking around with a keg and drinking it like you're the Pandaren from World of Warcraft, right? Like you're kung fu, you're the kung fu panda, or from the Drunken Master, right? Like you're actually drinking now. Yes. All right, level 6, Mystic Brew. Whenever you finish a short or long rest while holding brewer supplies, you can use this tool to magically produce one magical beverage, chosen from the following options: Cinnamon Dragon, Heavenly Spirit, or Refreshing Dip. The beverage appears in a bottle or cask, and the bottle vanishes when the beverage is drunk or poured out. If any beverage remains when you finish a short or long rest, the beverage and its container vanish. Okay? And then here's some more general rule. I don't know why they felt like they had to make it a separate section, but it is. So I don't know, maybe it's a separate action because you create the brew and then you drink the brew. All right. So drinking a magical beverage. Only you can gain the benefit of drinking the beverage. You must drink at least a pint of the beverage before gaining its benefits, and you can spend 1 minute drinking a pint of the beverage. You then gain the benefits of the beverage for 1 hour as described below. All right. So these are your three options. Cinnamon Dragon. You can take, and this is the buff you get while you've got it going, right? So Cinnamon Dragon, you can take a magic action to exhale toxic fumes in a 30-foot cone. Each creature makes a dexterity saving throw. DC is based on your wisdom. On a failed save, a creature takes fire damage equal to 4 rolls of your martial arts die, which is good, right? This is level 6, okay? This is the kind of number of martial arts die rolls they need to be adding to all the other monk features like this, where it was like, okay, it's 2d6 martial arts rolls at level 6 and upgrades to 3d6 at level 14. Forget about that. Like that's way too low. That would be a waste of your action to do that. But 44 rolls of your martial arts die at level 6, that's worth your action. I would do this. But wait, we're not done. There's more, right? So 4 rolls of your martial arts die, and they have the poison condition. They don't get another save. Just one save, dex save. Until the end of its next turn. On a successful save, a creature takes half damage only. So when I first started reading this, I was like, oh, great. Yet another one of these cone effects that sucks, and you'll never use it because it's less powerful than you just attacking. But this is good, right? And remember, with the 2024 change to the monk base class, you no longer need to take the attack action to take Flurry of Blows. And your Flurry of Blows upgrades to 3 attacks at level 11, okay? So spending your action is only sacrificing 2 attacks. You can still Flurry of Blows for 2 or 3 at level 11. And you're a skirmisher, right? You've got that. They can't target you because you can run in, do this, attack 2 or 3 times, and then leave. And you're leaving them behind poisoned and damaged. This is awesome. I I love this one. I hope they don't nerf it. Nobody tell them to nerf it. This is awesome. I don't think it's too powerful at all. I don't think it's weak at all. It's an interesting combination of area damage and a little bit of control. And it's cool because you're a skirmisher, right? So you're going to run in and add this debuff to the enemies and then run away, and you still feel like you're helping your allies. Like that's one of the downsides of being a skirmisher, I think, is too much of this. Too often you're like, well, I run in and do my thing and run away, and I'm kind of feel like a coward, and I'm leaving the rest of the party to their own devices. In this case, you can run in, debuff all the enemies, run out. So then, even though you're not targetable, your allies are still like, hey man, thanks. They all had disadvantage to attack me. I love this. This is excellent. Very well designed and hopefully well thought out. And hopefully it wasn't just an accident. Imagine if we had this kind of thoughtful design with the banneret. Okay, I can't promise that's the last time I'm going to bring it up, but let's move on. Heavenly Spirit, you gain resistance to psychic and radiant damage. A bit lackluster, but it's okay because this is an option, right? So if you know you're going in to deal and you need to deal with something that does radiant or psychic damage, and you have a minute to prep before you go into that, you drink this instead, and you've got resistance to all of that. So it's okay because it's an option, because the one you'll use most of the time will be one of the others. So I'm not mad at it. That's okay. It's all right. The next one, Refreshing Dip. Whenever you regain hit points, you regain additional hit points equal to a roll of your martial arts die. This one's interesting because it really depends on your party composition, right? If there's no one in your party who can heal, if there's a banneret in your party and they heal you with group recovery, it triggers this. Yes, banneret. Yeah. So if you don't have like a dedicated healer, then this is going to be used less often, right? But remember, you do have uncanny metabolism that allows you to heal yourself once per long rest. So this would still affect that. Now it's what you're, and you only get to do that once per long rest. So that you're really talking about one additional martial arts die of healing once per long rest. So that's not a reason to use this one, unless you have more time to take another short rest and swap this out to something else. But you'd have to be pretty desperate to swap around your beverage buffs. You'd have to take at least one more short rest. You'd have to take two short rests, right? One short rest to swap this in, then use it and uncanny metabolism, then swap it back out. Although it says whenever you heal. So if you heal by rolling hit dice with your short rest, that would trigger this too. Okay, yeah, that's a little better. Um, but this really becomes useful and powerful if you have an ally who is a healer. Like you got a life cleric or just any cleric, any bard, anybody with healing word. Every time they hit you with a healing word, you're getting an extra martial arts die worth of healing. So this is I like this one because it encourages teamwork. If you've got a healer with healing word in your party, this suddenly greatly enhances that, and now you're healing a ton. The part of this that doesn't work is kind of going back to the skirmisher, right? Like you're a skirmisher, you shouldn't be taking damage. Part of your job as a skirmisher is to not take damage, right? That's what frontliners and tanks do. Now, you're certainly, hopefully, going to be taking damage sometimes, so that, because it's boring if you just never get hit, never take any damage. So you're going to be taking damage sometimes. You can't always get out of, line of sight and stay out of line of sight. And hopefully the enemy's got more tricks up their sleeves than just that. So you'll take damage sometimes, but are you going to be taking enough damage that you're going to want to use this as your option? Probably not. Probably not. So I don't know. Maybe they need to think through that one a little more. Um, but it's not terrible. If they print this feature as is, well, up to this point, it's fine. The next part is where they probably need to fix it because the next part is enhancing a magical beverage. So we're still level 6, right? This is still the level 6 feature. Enhancing a magical beverage. When you create a magical beverage, you can expend one focus point. When you do so, the benefits duration extends to 8 hours. So first of all, you can only create these after a rest, which means you're full on you're full on your focus points, right? And you're going to spend one to make the brew that you create now last 8 hours. And there is nothing in this feature that says you can't have multiple at the same time, which means with just one long rest and two short rests, you can have all three for 6 more hours. That's OP. That's too much. They need to add a clause that says you can only have one at a time. Yeah. I I know. I feel dirty suggesting, that they rein something in, but this will be a problem. Like this will take over as the number one in monk subclass and the only one that's ever used if they don't fix that. Like this will be the new Gloomstalker and Hex Blade, right? Like you will see this on every build and people will be using it all the time. And you'll never see another monk, which is bad for the game. So, yes, they need to rein that part in. The rest of the options as is fine. They're fine. Okay. But my concern with that one gets even worse now. Level 11, Master, and that was a brand new feature. That was just added. Okay. Level 11, you used to have this thing called Drunkard's Luck, which sucked. Which was essentially if you have disadvantage on something, you can spend 2 of your key points. That's what it was back then to cancel it. Expensive, even at level 11, and you're just removing disadvantage. Like that was garbage. Okay. So back to the UA. Level 11 Master Brewer. You learn more complex flavors. The following beverages are added to your Mystic Brew options. Blue Lightning. Whenever you take a reaction that isn't an opportunity attack or casting a spell, you can make one unarmed strike as part of that reaction. So if you deflect attack, you can unarmed strike somebody. I'm not sure what other reactions would qualify because everything else you're doing is either an opportunity attack or you got the shield spell or absorb element spell from magic initiate or something. Yeah, you'd have to like defensive duelist. Yeah, defensive duelist would qualify. So they would have to be some sort of feat or a multi-class feature that would trigger this for you. And again, here's the problem with this one. Now I do like it, but here's the problem with it. You're a skirmisher, and I guess I'm gonna keep saying this. You're a skirmisher, so you're trying to not be in melee at all. Which means if this triggers, you're not, nobody's in range for an unarmed strike. Like that's your goal every round, is to not be in range of enemies. So this one does not work with the subclass design, but it's cool in general. I mean, if I guess if you just want to ignore your ability to be a skirmisher and just stand in melee, you can. Monks are actually, not going to get crushed in melee anymore because their deflect attack ability is so strong that they don't need to actually play like a skirmisher. But if you don't play like a skirmisher with this, then your level 3 ability, you're not using your level 3 ability at all. And then why did you have the level 3 ability? So we've got a conflict of subclass design right here. And so they need to fix that one. All right, Drunkard's Luck. You gain heroic inspiration if you don't already have it. In addition, you can give yourself heroic inspiration when you roll initiative without it. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so that one I like. It's going to have, I don't know, there's some redundancy if somebody in your party has the musician feat. And I know like optimizers love to get that one because heroic inspiration is so good if you don't have it. But it depends on your DM. Like I hand out heroic inspiration a lot, right? I really want to encourage my players to role play, and I'll hand it out during combat, right? Because I strongly encourage my players to role play during combat, right? Combat sucks if you don't role play during combat. Okay, it just is, guys. Otherwise, it's just, you might as well just be playing a board game or a video game or something like that, right? It's boring. That's why whenever you think combat sucks in D&D, it's because you stopped role playing when you rolled initiative. All right, I don't want to go off on that one for another 10 minutes, but I could. And this compounds the problem from the level 6 feature. If they don't put a limit on having only one brew at a time, or maybe they can upgrade it to 2 at a time with this at this level, they need to put a limit on it. If they don't, this compounds it, because now you can just have all 5 of these at the same time, right? If you just start off your day by resting, by having 4 short rests, you can have all 5 of these. So you start your adventuring day at noon, and the rest of the party is going to be like, sure, I don't care when we go into the dungeon. And so now you're just walking around with all 5 of these buffs all the time, unless the DM has a way to deal with it, right? Now, the way I deal with that kind of stuff as a DM is, first of all, I never ever roll for random encounters anymore, never. And I think it's terrible to just roll and see if something randomly happens. I hate that. Always make something tied to the character sheet, to the player's character sheet. So what I do instead is I have them roll survival checks or stealth checks, depending on situations. And if the group rolls low enough, then a random encounter has occurred, and then I'll roll, on the table for which random encounter happens. But it's always triggered by the player's character sheet and their rolls, right? That way, the characters that the players have built matter, and that's always important. Okay, so and I also use the same strategy for when they take a rest. So if they take a short rest, I say, great, everybody roll stealth or survival. And I also apply some tool proficiencies, but we don't have time to cover that right now. So as an individual, and when they do that for a rest, as an individual, if they don't roll at least, usually depending on, and I'll kind of scale this depending on how dangerous the situation is. If you're in the enemy's lair, it might be a DC 15. But a lot of time I set it at DC 10. But if you don't roll that for yourself, if you don't match the DC by yourself, then you don't benefit from the short rest at all, because you couldn't get yourself calmed down to relax and focus or whatever you needed to do, right? And if the whole group rolls too low, below that DC as a group check, not the whole group, as a group check, which means half the party has to succeed. If they don't succeed at the group check for that rest, then you have another random encounter. So that would prevent this abuse, or at least hinder this kind of abuse. But I still think they need to apply some sort of limit, probably 1 at level 6, maybe upgrade it to 2 brews at level 11, since you're a master brewer now, right? Okay, but let's move on to level 17. Level 17, Intoxicated Frenzy. You make an overwhelming number of attacks against a group of enemies. When you use Flurry of Blows, you can make up to 3 additional attacks, unarmed strikes with it, up to a total of 6 unarmed strikes, provided that each strike targets a different creature this turn. And so they made it better. Great. They didn't make it worse. But this one always had a problem, and they need to fix that problem, which is a lot of the times there aren't that many monsters. And even if there are, it's not that valuable to go and hit each one of them once, because you can't even add additional effects to it, right? Like the open hand monk has basically rider effects that can apply to their flurry of blows attacks, but you can't have two subclasses from the same class. And nothing else gives riders to unarmed strikes, I think, right? I can't think of anything. No, I don't know. There's probably something I'm not thinking of. Like the Crusher feat, I guess, but that's once per turn. So you can't even do that on all of these, right? There's not really any effect where you can go and where it's like worthwhile to go and unarmed strike every one of the 6 enemies for one unarmed strike damage. And you can't stunning strike more than once per turn. So you can't even do that, which is what the Drunken Master was capable of doing in 2014 because stunning strike wasn't limited. So they could go by stunning strike and hit 5 enemies and try to stunning strike every one of them. So you had like an AoE control, and you can't do that anymore. So this one needs to be redesigned, and probably it should just, you know what, just change it to say you can just make 4 attacks with your flurry of blows instead of 3, and just let it be all in one target. Just let it be. Unless, I don't know. Let me know if you have a better idea than that. Somebody out there. So that's my first idea. Yeah. Anyway, I think this one, yeah, it got better in every way. They didn't fix one of its problems, and they effed up the name. So they got to fix that name. Otherwise, I like it. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.